Hello, let's talk more about the writing process, specifically about some problems and concerns. Remember, English 105 is critical reading, writing, and inquiry. It's my job to teach you to read critically and to make critical inquiry about what you read so that you have something to write about critically. It's very important that you learn from your mistakes. When I mark your paper, you are responsible for all marks and comments. Fix the errors, but be sure you fully understand them. If not, ask me. That's why I'm here. Be thorough. Don't just fix stuff. Think as you go and learn the process. It's time to think for yourself. What I'm not is your copy editor. You should edit your paper before I ever see it the first time. What I am is your professor. I point out problems and make suggestions for improvement. What you are is my student. And once you're my student, you're always my student. You can always contact me and ask me for help with the writing project, and I'm glad to help and give you advice. What you are not is average. You're not an average student. You have been recognized as having accelerated ability. I want to help you learn to use your ability to write well. We're making repeated mistakes. This is not good. When I mark a problem at one spot in your paper, you should search your paper and fix it everywhere, not just where I marked it. Again, I'm not your copy editor. You should learn from every one of these marks so that it doesn't continue to happen. Remember, you can use Control F and it will bring up a find box in Microsoft Word. You can plug in the word you're looking for and search all over your paper and find it. You can plug in a right hand or a left hand parenthesis and check all of your citations very easily. When I have pointed out a problem in class, in an email, or in a video on Canvas, it should be sufficient. I don't want to see these mistakes again and again in your papers. Again, learn from it so it doesn't continue to happen. One time is a mistake. 2 times is careless. 3 times is inexcusable. You're smart, so act like it. Remember that in this class, everything matters. Formal essays, that's obvious, but wait, that's not all. Written responses, the same writing rules apply. Bad habits just get worse with repetition. Albert Einstein famously defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. If it's wrong today, it's wrong tomorrow, so don't keep doing the same thing. Emails matter. This is a writing class. You should even edit the emails you sent me. Reading your email is not optional for this class. Murray State considers RacerMail official notification. When I send an email, you are responsible for it, whether you open it or not. If my outbox shows that it went to your inbox, you are officially notified according to Murray State protocol. This is very important since this class meets only once a week and since we're already missing classes for bad weather. And remember, I don't use Canvas Mail. I use Murray State RacerMail. It's very important that you read your emails. You are supposed to work on Canvas 1 hour online each week. Watch all the videos, listen to all the songs, read everything, whatever I post. You're responsible for everything I post on Canvas. You must check Canvas every day. Always check my comments on your written responses. Remember, they're worth 10% of your grade. Here are some writing problems I've encountered so far. I'm getting language in your essays that looks like text messaging. Lowercase i's for the pronoun I. Really? In an essay? We're having trouble with headers and page numbers. I made a video showing you how to put them in correctly. It's time for you to watch it. It's time for you to learn to do it. Formatting matters in this class, and you're losing points. Watch the videos. You cannot put them in manually. When you do that and you edit your paper, they go all over the place. The pronoun they is a problem for many students. Remember, this pronoun is plural. You cannot use it with a singular antecedent. For example, a person should always wash their hands. Person is singular, there is plural. Here's a solution. It's weak and cumbersome, but you could do it. A person should always wash his or her hands. We don't really want to read that over and over. There are much better solutions. For example, people should always wash their hands. Simplest fix, make the subject plural, make the antecedent plural. It usually works. Or you could just reword the thing in the first place and say, we should always wash our hands. Or, hand washing is important for proper hygiene. Just avoid the pronoun altogether. In MLA style, commas and periods almost always go inside quotation marks in your text. I have marked this for some of you on 3 writing assignments. Enough already. Here are 2 examples. He had grown up with her, period, quotation mark. If he hadn't grown up with her, comma, quotation mark. Commas and periods go inside quotation marks in your text. Not talking about citations, we're talking about your text. You can use commas properly to separate a list. For example, at the store John bought milk, bread, and cheese. Or to set off an appositive phrase. An appositive phrase is one that the sentence can do without, but it adds to the content. On the way home, John noticed that the date on the milk had expired. You could read, John noticed that the milk on the date had expired as a complete sentence without the appositive phrase. You can use a comma properly to introduce a quote that is a complete sentence. For example, speaking of werewolves, Elizabeth A. Lawrence insists, comma, they remain alive and well in the 20th century. But you should leave out the comma when the quote is part of your sentence. If the quote is not a complete sentence on its own, but is part of your sentence, then don't use the comma. For example, Elizabeth A. Lawrence insists that werewolves remain alive and well in the 20th century. No comma needed there. You cannot use a comma to join 2 complete thoughts. It produces a comma splice, and this is a serious error. For example, John went to the store this afternoon, comma, he brought milk and bread. These are 2 complete sentences that are joined together with a comma. This is not good. You can easily fix this by making it two separate sentences. John went to the store this afternoon, period. He bought milk and bread, period. It's fixed. You can't use a comma to join two complete thoughts, but you can use a semicolon to join two complete, closely related thoughts. Here's our pesky comma splice again. John went to the store this afternoon. He bought milk, bread, and cheese. You can easily fix this with a semicolon. John went to the store this afternoon, semicolon. He bought milk, bread, and cheese. You can use a semicolon to separate a complicated list that also includes commas. For example, John bought milk from Mrs. Brown, the lady who lives next door, semicolon. Bread for his mother, who lives just across the street, semicolon. Cheese for the lasagna that his wife, Mary, plans to make for dinner, semicolon. And food for Molly, his dog. Use a colon after a complete sentence that announces a list to follow. For example, John bought several things at the market. That is a complete sentence. It could have a period at the end and be complete. In this case, it's announcing a list. So we have John bought several things at the market, colon, milk for Mrs. Brown, bread for his mother, cheese, and so forth. Do not use a colon after an introductory phrase before a list. At the market, John bought milk for Mrs. Brown, bread for his mother. So you would not use at the market, colon, John bought milk, and so forth. Run-on sentences are also a problem. Two complete thoughts run together with no punctuation or conjunction is a serious error. For example, John went to the store this afternoon. He bought milk and bread. If you read your paper aloud, as I keep instructing you to do, you will hear these. If you just read them mindlessly like that, you won't hear them. But if you actually read them with some articulation and emphasis, you will find them. You can easily fix this by making it two separate sentences. John went to the store this afternoon, period. He bought milk and bread, period. Problem with this is you start to end up with a bunch of short, choppy sentences. So there are other solutions. You can use a semicolon. John went to the store this afternoon, semicolon. He bought milk and bread. Or you can use a conjunction. John went to the store this afternoon and bought milk and bread. You can simply reword the sentence. For example, John went to the store this afternoon to buy milk and bread. Or, when John went to the store this afternoon, he bought milk and bread. It's not difficult to fix these. Colons and semicolons typically go outside quotation marks in your text. Commas and periods go inside, but colons and semicolons typically go outside. And here are two examples. Commas and periods in citations always follow the parenthesis. They do not stay with the quote. They go after the citation. For example, werewolves are hybrid creatures embodying supernatural powers. Citation, period. Question marks and exclamation marks are exceptions. They stay with the quote. Bisclavere's wife demanded, "Where do you put your clothes?" question mark, quotation mark, citation period. Remember, you always need the appropriate terminal punctuation at the end of the sentence too. You should never use any of these phrases. Talks about how in the book it says, think about it, it doesn't say or do anything. It's a book. The author and the characters do speak. By this he means, explains how. He explains by saying, the passage states, again the passage doesn't talk, supported by the statement, over time, throughout time. Don't use those. Avoid them completely. When you integrate quotes into your text, they must read into your own sentences. Here's a bad example. Or may we assert that the child is, by definition, a discoverer. By this he means, never, ever do that. Easily fixed like this. According to Borges, the child is, by definition, a discoverer. Citation period. All quotes must read into your sentences. Here's another bad example. On page 78 it says, or may we assert the child is by definition a discoverer. Again, it's not difficult to fix this. Borges insists that the child is by definition a discoverer. Here's another bad example. Or may we assert that the child is by definition. Here's another solution. It is important to understand that the child is by definition a discoverer. Here we have used the author's name in the citation rather than in the sentence, but we did make the quote part of our sentence. We didn't just drop the quote in. You can't do that. The quote has to be part of your sentence, introduced and explained. Integrating quotes, they must read into your sentences again. Citations stay with the quote. In some styles, the citations go to the end of the sentence. In MLA style, they stay with the quote. Here's an example. Since Beast Claveret was betrayed and wronged by his wife, 19, she might be the real monster. Don't hold the citations to the end of the sentence or the end of the paragraph. Look for variety when introducing quotes. You should only use the word states one time in any paper. The same goes for other words to introduce quotes, such as asserts, suggests, points out, insists, and so forth. Only use the part of the quote you really need. You do not have to use the whole sentence. One word or just a few words may do the job just fine. Use quotes, but don't overuse them. The texts are supporting you. You are not supporting the texts. Think about that. Don't turn in a bunch of quotes strung together with little or no explanation. And the relevance of every quote in your paper must be explained in your own words. Again, the quotes are supporting you. You are not supporting the quotes. Always use a writing manual and check everything for MLA style. You can use the Harbrace if you want to, the hard copy that's sold in the bookstore. I actually prefer OWL at Purdue University. It's an online manual, it's searchable, and very user-friendly. But use it. In MLA style, You need to spell out all numbers under 100. 5, 10, 20, 25, 99. But when you reach 100, use the numbers. I've marked this in several of your papers, and you're still making the same mistake. This is inexcusable. This doesn't apply to dates. MLA wants them formatted this way: 29 July 2016, no commas, no periods. It doesn't apply to times of day such as 10 p.m. Still use the numbers there. Let me stress one more time the importance that you watch the video that I posted 2 weeks ago about inserting headers and page numbers. They cannot be put in manually. I've already graded a few papers where the header is halfway down the page. When you put them in manually and then you edit your paper, they move around. Watch the video, learn to do them properly. We're going to be doing this all semester. You may as well bite the bullet and watch the video, get it down pat, because you're going to lose points for faulty formatting otherwise. It's important that you learn to use italics for the titles of books and other long works. Notice Monsters, a Bedford Spotlight Reader is our primary textbook for English 105. You would italicize the King James Bible. I have never seen the opera Carmen live. Carmen is a 2-hour musical work. It qualifies as a long work. We went to see the new Star Wars movie last week. Star Wars is a movie title. It gets italicized. Use quotation marks, no italics, for titles of short works. For example, in English 105, we read a 10th century Anglo-Saxon poem titled Wolf and Edwasser. My favorite short story is Good Country People by Flannery O'Connor. Here are some other examples. Yesterday, we listened to Kelly Clarkson singing Miss Independent. This is a song, so it goes in quotation marks, no italics. I found Jeffrey Jerome Cohen's essay, 7 Theses of Monster Culture, very interesting. This is the title of an essay. It is in a book, but this is not the book we're referring to. It's the essay. So it only goes in quotation marks, no italics. Everything you write in English 105 this semester matters. Every formal essay, obviously, but every written response matters. The 10 responses total 10% of your grade. That's a letter grade. You need to take them seriously. Every email matters. It's all writing. And here's something you need to think about. Every time you make a mistake, you simply strengthen your bad habits. Let's have no monstrous writing, please.